Last week, I prepped 8 freezer dinners in 2 small sessions. Not a full freezer, not a marathon prep day, just enough. This week, I didn't film the prep, I just lived it. And what I learned surprised me. It wasn't about having dinner ready. It was about not having to think about dinner. Here's what that looked like this week. So starting with Monday was a really full day. We had a meeting outside the house. We had some errands, then a client meet and greet. By the time we got home and done with everything, it was about 4. And I actually still had some energy. I could have cooked something from scratch, but I didn't have to. And that's the shift that I'm noticing. It's not always about the nights when everything falls apart. Sometimes it's about protecting your energy when you still have some left. Because Monday night, I had an evening engagement and I didn't want to have to be thinking about dinner and have that energy carry with me into the rest of the evening. So what surprised me was that I didn't feel rushed. I didn't feel behind. It just felt steady. And steady is something I think we could all use a little bit more of. So today was Monday and we had lazy lasagna for dinner. We actually had it a little bit early because I had an evening engagement, and today was actually super full. I had quite a few appointments and errands and going hither and yon. But what I noticed was that the whole day actually felt so relaxed because I noticed, right around 4:00 when normally I've got that kind of like, I got to get started on dinner. All I had to do was dump it into the Instant Pot and pour in a few other ingredients, and then I could get back to what I was doing. So, it's not like this super heroic thing, but it does make the rest of the day feel easier. So Tuesday is our homeschool co-op day. I'm the director, so it's a lot of energy out. We usually get home around 3:30, and normally that's when dinner starts living in the back of my head. What are we having? Do I need to thaw something out? Should I start chopping now? This time, I didn't think about any of that. I just put it in the pot. And instead of worrying about dinner, I went for a walk with my husband. Now, that might not sound terribly exciting to you, but that's margin. The soup was ready. The kitchen wasn't chaotic. It didn't take away all stressors from Tuesday, but it did remove one pressure point. All right, it's Tuesday, and Tuesday is the kind of day, Tuesday is like the fullest day of the week. It is our homeschool co-op day. I am the director of that co-op, and so I am just pouring out all day long. So Tuesdays are very full. We got home and I was just done. But because I had done this freezer prep, we had a lovely white bean and butternut squash soup for dinner tonight. And would I have ordered takeout if that hasn't been prepped? Probably not. But would I have been short with my kids? Maybe. But instead, because I had this meal ready to go, I actually took a walk with my husband, which that was kind of cool. So, having freezer meals prepped, it doesn't necessarily make everything in your life better, but it does remove one friction point, and that matters. Wednesday was a lot. So we had not one, but 2 dental appointments, after school, traffic. It was probably about 4:30 by the time I got home. And normally that is the exact moment that I would feel it, that tightness begin to creep in, that stress, that what are we going to do about dinner? But that day, dinner was already decided. I didn't have to think. I just had to execute. And that might sound small, but when your brain is already tired, that's everything. I didn't have to open the fridge and stare. I didn't have to Google anything. I didn't have to negotiate with myself about ordering pizza or takeout. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't complicated, but it was done. And I was calm. Okay, so it's now Wednesday. It was another full day with several medical appointments, dental appointments, and I got home at like 4 o'clock. And it was so nice to know the dinner was already handled. I even forgot to take it out of the freezer last night to thaw. And so I actually thawed it out in a sink full of cool water, but we still had an on-time dinner. Yay, freezer meal for the win. So a question that I'm pondering is, did 8 meals feel like enough? Was it enough to reduce the mental load? And what I can say is there's actually still a few in the freezer. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks because I don't use freezer meals for every meal. I just use them on the busiest days when when I really need to create that extra margin for myself. So yeah, we still have a few in the freezer. Would it be nice to have more? I don't know, maybe if we had a bigger freezer, but what I can say is that 8 was enough. It was not a TV show. Eight is enough. But anyway, 8 was enough to really reduce decision fatigue and that 6 o'clock scramble. So I think what I learned from this experiment is you don't really need a full freezer, although that would be nice. But even just 3, 4, 5 meals stashed in the freezer is enough to really, really take off that mental load. All right. As this freezer meal prep experiment comes to a close, I wanted to come on here and address a few questions that have been posed to me. Number one, what did I learn doing this experiment? Well, what I learned is, a lot of times we as moms, we tend to focus on the 4 hours we don't have. I don't have 4 hours, so I'm not going to do anything. Well, it's not so much about the 4 hours that you don't have. What about the 1 hour that you do have? Can you use that to get ahead? And what I found is that a lot of times 1 hour was enough to make a significant difference in the week. Who is this style of meal prep for? This style of meal prep works really well for the busy moms, the moms who are in what I like to call the Uber driver season of life, when you're shuttling back and forth between activities and you've got one kid who is in a strength training class and then one kid who's in a play and has got to get to rehearsal, and you got to get the right people to the right places at the right time with the right equipment. This type of meal prep is golden for that season. Who might need more? So the meals that I prepped made an average of about 4 to 6 servings. So for your average family of 4, that's enough for at least one dinner and then leftovers, a couple of lunches. If you had a very large family, then you might want more. But yeah, it was really, really, really effective. Listen, if you're waiting until you have the time to fill your freezer completely, you might be waiting for a really long time. But 3 or 4 meals, that might be enough to change your whole week. If you also are working on ending the 6 o'clock scramble, that's what this community is all about. I invite you to consider subscribing. If you missed the prep videos, I will link those in the description below, and I'll see you over there.